welcome. I have this honored guest here. I'm going to let him introduce himself and we're going to get right into this interview.
All right, perfect. My name is Phil Ramontal, currently living in Miami, Florida, and I'm currently a Senior Business Intelligence Analyst at Derm Care Management.
All right, awesome. And I think you jumped right into our first question here, which is, I'm going to have you repeat that again just so everyone, but I'm going to ask you the full question. So Phil, thanks again for being here. What's your current title? And in simple terms, what do you actually do?
So my current title is Senior Business Intelligence Analyst. And what I currently do is I currently help the technical folks who are the data engineers, the data scientists, the data analyst. I'm kind of the bridge between them and the business. I help simplify the technical terms so the business, and I like to say I put it in fifth grade language so the business people could understand what the technical folks are saying. So I call myself the bridge. I also call myself the PR guy between the two pieces of the business.
The middleman.
I'm the middleman.
Awesome. So can you walk us through what a typical day on the job looks like for you?
Yeah, sure. So my day generally starts, I'm an early person, so I'm in the office by 8 a.m. I try to get there before everybody does. First thing I do, log in, I go straight to my emails and I look through emails and I chart out what are my top 3 things that I need to accomplish today. Based on either previous day's work or new emails that I received that morning, I chart out, I try to accomplish 3 things every day, no matter how small they are. And after I have my about 1 hour where I have my time to go through emails, send messages, the meetings start. So in the morning, my meetings start at about 9:30. That's when everybody's coming in till about 12:30. And then they pick back up at 1:30 till about 4 o'clock when it's time for me to go. So my day is basically tons of meetings, and maybe during my lunch, I could actually do some work. I would say my work consists of either I'm building a dashboard or I'm building a report, or I'm fixing a report, fixing a dashboard. The business will ask me a question. I have to go back to the technical folks. Hey guys, they're asking me XYZ, I need your help. So I'm basically the go-between the business and the technical folks.
Awesome. Interesting. So tell me, what actually drew you to this field? Was it something that you planned or just happened to discover along the way?
Yeah, I would say discovered. So back in 2018, I was a teacher. So I was a teacher for 10 years prior to being in the data field. 2018, I said to myself, I did not want to be a teacher anymore. I said, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So what I did was I Googled top 10 jobs of the future. Data analytics was number 2, accounting was number 1. I knew I didn't want to be an accountant. So I went to a small university, St. Thomas University, nearby my home, Miami, Florida. And I talked to the dean of the school and he said, go take some stats classes. And if you like it, then let's talk again. I took the stats class and I was like, this was fun. So I went back, started the program 2018, graduated. Not a great year to graduate, 2021, tough to find a job. But eventually I landed at a really good place. So yeah, it wasn't planned. It was, I just knew I didn't want to be a teacher. So kind of a career pivot.
Nice. So what you didn't want kind of influenced your next move, which was awesome. I think you kind of touched on the next question I had for you, which was if formal education played a role in your path, but added to that, with that formal education you mentioned, were you mostly self-taught at all?
So initially, yes. When I decided to go back to school, the dean at the school also told me I should learn as much SQL and as much R and Python as possible. And I had never heard of these things before. So I went and I downloaded R initially, and then I downloaded Python, and then I went online and I found this website where you could do SQL, SQL exams. You just go through it and it gives you a question and you have to figure it out. So initially self-taught, but then when I started the program, I started to learn a lot more. And my first semester was tough because I realized I didn't know anything. I realized, oh my goodness, is this for me? And by the end of my first year, I could code in 3 different languages. I know how to do Power BI. I know how to do Tableau. So the initial shock phase was tough, but eventually I was able to get over it. I think anybody can do it.
Awesome. You mentioned a few of them, but what I'm interested in is what's the very first data or tech skill that you learned that made you think, you know what, I can really do this? You had a lot of, I guess, learning to do, but which one did you zero in that made you really think, I can do this?
I'd say learning SQL made me realize if I could get the data, then I could put it in any other tool and manipulate it, create visuals and do analyses. And there's a million things you could do as long as you could get the data, which is the most important part. That I always tell people who ask me what's the most important skill to learn, I always tell them, before you go and learn Python and all these other tools, learn SQL and learn how to understand business. That's going to take you a long way.
Yeah, I hear that. So tell us about your first job where you actually got to use those skills. How did you land it, and what was that experience like?
So my first job was at a place called North America Partners in Anesthesia. It's an anesthesia management company. The way I landed the job, my sister-in-law worked at that place, and she told me, hey, there's a position that just opened up. And she said, send me your resume. And I had been applying for jobs for 6 months. And she said, send me your resume. She sent me the resume. I didn't hear anything for a month. And all of a sudden, then I just went through the interview process. I met what would become excellent coworkers. I consider them friends. I still talk to them till this day. They were fantastic. I think one of the main things in landing a job is to network. That's what that experience taught me. And yes, it was my sister-in-law, but I talked to her. I told her, hey, I'm looking for this role. I'm looking for this. And subsequently, I think networking on LinkedIn and networking in person, finding, meetups in your area, finding different events that are being thrown with like-minded people who are not necessarily in your field, but just people who are like-minded. Meeting those people puts you in a position when something opens up, that person, when they remember you, they're going to say, oh, you know what? Phil was the guy who was looking for a data job. And if something opens up, they're going to think of you and they're going to reach out. And just keep those doors open. Never close the door. Always keep it open, and opportunities will come your way.
I like that. It's golden advice. So looking back today, what challenges or turning points shaped your career the most?
Ooh, challenges. I mean, my initial job, I thought going into it, I was like, oh man, I know all these tools and I know all this stuff. And getting to my initial, the first job I got hired at, I realized the tools weren't the most important thing. Understanding the business and how to apply the tools to the business are the most important thing. And I think subsequently in my new role, that's what's helping me be successful, because understanding and learning the tools, learning, SQL, learning all the Power BIs, all those things, that's going to come. But having an in-depth understanding of the business that you're working for is extremely important, because when the people at the company realize that the business, doors will just open up.
I love that. I could actually put that in quotes right there. The tools are there, but understand the business first and how to apply the tools to that business. I love it. We're in the age of AI. So how has AI already changed the way you work day to day?
So I'd say I started using ChatGPT a couple years back, or maybe a year and a half. Using AI has made me more efficient. Working on a piece of code sometimes that I just couldn't figure out would take me half a day. Right now, it takes me 5 minutes. So, the advent of ChatGPT and Copilot and all these tools, I think the most important piece of it is helping developers and analysts and engineers just be more efficient, because things that would take a long period of time, they now just take less time because AI is there to help with that. Now, I know a lot of people think AI is just going to come and take their job. I don't think that's the case. I think you need to learn how to use AI, and that's going to be a valuable asset into the future, because some of the jobs that an analyst do, AI is going to be able to do it. But you need to upskill, get yourself to the next level, learn as much about AI as possible, and then you'll be a valuable asset to a company.
Nice. So you mentioned something there that kind of leads to the next question. as AI plays I guess a bigger and bigger role of things, and you just said, right size it in the right way to leverage it.
Yep.
What do you do to stay relevant as AI keeps evolving your role?
My number one advice to everybody is continue to upskill. And when I say that, I mean continue to learn. Learning never ends when you're an analyst or engineer or a scientist. You have to continue to learn. I consistently take classes I use a website called Udemy. There's tons of great content, a lot of it, some of it free, some of it extremely cheap. So I'm always learning, okay, what's the next technology that's gonna come that I need to know and understand? So AI is here. You got Gen AI coming up, and that's gonna be able to do a lot of things. I need to know how to maneuver in the environment that's gonna be here in a few years. So definitely education, upskill. Those are two of the most important things if you want to stay relevant.
All right. Great. Last question.
Yes.
So if someone is just starting out today, what's the single most important piece of advice you'd give them?
Ooh. I would say the single most important thing you need to know if you're just starting out in data, if you're focused on the tools, you need to be good at one thing. You don't have to be good at everything. And that was one of the mistakes I made. I wanted to learn a bunch of tools and all this stuff. What was most important was learn one thing and when you get a job, make yourself valuable. Get that one thing where you're indispensable. And I think that's the advice I would give to myself. Because I think when I initially started, I was trying to learn everything. Learn one. And then that one leads you to the next one. And you're never going to be perfect at it because it just keeps evolving. But you'll have the base where when it evolves, you're there. You know what to do. You know what's coming next. So yeah, definitely that would be the advice. One foot in front of the other. I think, like I said earlier, anybody could learn the tools.
Yeah.
Anybody could learn the tools. But learn a tool at a time, understand business, and definitely success awaits you.
Love it. Love it. Well, that's a wrap. That's a wrap, sir. That's the end. Thank you for such golden advice. I think anyone looking at this is going to have a wealth of information to help them.
Awesome.